know, if it's lack of flying or if it, you know, will be more regional, you know, those are questions that will come up, but, or, you know, have to be determined. But I think, yeah, one of the great things is that it's outside, and that's one of the things that reasons why we love it. And I think it'll be in our favor, hopefully, as we find a solution.
That was good. So how thing in Iowa State? Are you still there?
I'm not, which is why I'm on the call. Yeah, no, just kind of in between right now. You know, it's obviously at a unique time, just with a lot, you know, a lot of institutions are on a hiring freeze. So one of the benefits is I get to be here on the webinar.
Good, good. Well, thanks. So, you know, since you are no longer coach, you know, I think what you're saying it's in between. So you probably go somewhere soon, but you know, we leave it that for another day. Mm-hmm. So what would you recommend the coaches that are on the line today? What should they tell the players regarding to recruiting college golf? You see anything will be different from now on?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the unique part is that many tournaments are not being played right now. So a lot of coaches aren't able to really recruit in person. And obviously there's a dead period until the end of May currently. But I think, you know, players are still able to reach out to coaches, you know, whether that's sending emails or calling, you know, obviously that too depends on the age of the student athlete, but I think, you know, there's still communication that is able to be had. And I think that's one of the biggest things. You know, you can always send swing videos still. So I think that part is the same, just, you know, making sure that you're communicating via technology, right? And coaches are able to give, you know, virtual campus tours and things like that, again, depending on the age of the prospective student athlete. But that's one of the biggest things, is just continue to communicate and, you know, ask questions, reach out, see, you know, kind of what their plans are, or what, you know, just how things are changing. You know, it's almost like you can build a relationship more because there is so much communication. But that's the biggest thing I would say, is just reach out to the coach and to the universities that you're speaking with.
Good. So basically the players and the parents and the coaches have to do more work.
Yes. Continue to do your homework, certainly. You know, right now it's just such a unique time. It's really individual based on institutions. It's hard to give one blanket answer. You know, it's just reach out, you know, if the student athlete has 5 or 6 schools that they're looking at, you know, continue to do the homework. And you know, if you can look at their website, different things like that. I mean, the social media, a lot of people are really active on their social media right now. Again, it's a dead period, but you know, you can always find a way. But yeah, continue to do your homework. That will never change.
Okay. No, thank you. All right. So you know, with that, I will lead it to Betty.
Well, George, just with what Sarah's saying, you know, it's going to put more in the hands of the student athlete, the coaches that are on today to help the student athletes through it. You know, we're sitting in limbo. We have a dead period till May, but that could be extended. And each university institution, so when you're talking to an institution and they say, well, we're doing this, the next institution might be on a different schedule because of institutional rules. So it's hard because you have NCAA rules, but then you have institutional rules, which probably trump NCAA rules. So it gets very confusing for the student athlete why one coach can do something and one can't. And there's going to be travel restrictions. I've heard from different coaches, you know, we're on a travel restriction until August 1st. It doesn't matter what happens because of budgetary issues. So you're going to see more coaches that can't get out and watch kids play. It's going to be more regional, probably observation when they do get out. So for Asia and things like that, you got to continue to play. As Sarah said, do your homework, reaching out. They want the kids from Asia. They're not going to quit recruiting them. They're not going to not be admitted to schools and universities. It's it's going to be a while before coaches can get back over to Asia and recruit the way they were the last 5 or 6 years. So, you know, it's just like, you know, as you tell kids, follow your dream. You got to be persistent and go after it a little bit. And it might not be as easy, but it will be rewarding when you get there. But send resumes. Keep engagement with the coaches of the schools you're interested in. And, you know, you have people like George that, you know, have connections. They can reach out to myself and other coaches that he's around to help, you know, help the kids. So I think the hardest thing right now is the difference between what NCAA mandates and then, you know, you have 1,000 universities that have 1,000 different rules within their universities, and that gets very confusing to the student athlete.
Betty, could you elaborate a little bit more why you see that the coach could not travel to Asia like they used to be anymore?
Right now, you take an Olympic sport like golf and everything, our budgets are, from an administrative standpoint, come from your money-making sports of, in the States, football and basketball. And so some of our budgets, not all schools have huge endowments. So when you read certain things, some schools are non-effective, others are going to be affected. And so recruiting budgets are going to be probably, and again, it's institutional, but it, you know, to go over and spend a week or 10 days in Asia, they might prefer, and again, it's institutionalized, you know, it's according to the institution. Some institutions might say keep it the same, but it's going to affect like going over to the British boys, going over the British girls. And it's hard to say where the institutions are going, but a lot would depend, I would think, on how they get back economically, with, you know, the budgets, within the university budgets. So it's going to be hard to say what they do. Some of your big Power 5 schools, it might not be affected as some of the mid-majors and some of the smaller schools.
Yeah, no doubt. It's will certainly what do you call it? It's a chain effect is coming down.
Right. It is a chain effect. And I think, you know, and this is just, I just read something today that, you know, they're trying to decide football, and some schools are saying football will be back on campus. You know, staff will be in June 15th, July 15th for the student athletes. They're starting to kind of put days on it, it looks like, but those days can change. So May 31st, it's a dead period. That could go into June. So the dates are changing. And until they get, you know, where, again, they can, you know, you can get a schedule, it's going to be hard to say what will happen.
Yeah, no, it's good. Well, thank you. Well, if you just join us, I just want to apologize again about the call today, but we will schedule, you know, the coach panel again in June if the date periods end May 31st. So it's going to be June 8 and June 15. Okay, stay tuned. We will let you know. Well, for next, I would say, Brian, will you be able to, you know, give some wisdom on the call?
Yeah, I can share a lot of wisdom, George. What topic do you want me to share wisdom on?
So I would say COVID. So we're here, you know, and if you know, that would be great in terms of your what you see in your programs and what you see in the recruiting for the future class, what they're gonna have an impact on.
I think it depends on what needs were filled for the upcoming classes. If you were able to get things done for fall of 21, because I kind of skip over 2020 because at this juncture, I would imagine certainly the lion's share of coaches have been able to get their fall of 20 recruiting squared away. But I think regarding fall of 21 and fall of 22 and fall of 23, those are the classes that are going to be most impacted by what's going on and what's happened in the last 7 to 8 weeks. And some coaches are going to fill their 21 by having current student athletes take advantage of the 5th year the NCAA has granted to student athletes that were already here based on our spring season being canceled. But I think there are some coaches that had fall of 21 already set from a recruiting standpoint. So that's going to mean maybe fall of 22 and fall of 23, their current sophomores and freshmen on their rosters, maybe taking advantage of the 5th year, and that way limits the spots available, for the fall of 22 and fall of 23. And then when you get fall of 24, won't be impacted. I don't foresee, but I think the next 3 classes are going to be impacted to some extent, just depending on the school and the coach. You'll see each class, impacted less or more so. And so I think that's going to be, I think that's the biggest part on the recruiting front. But that doesn't, and like Coach Betty mentioned, you just have to be persistent, and each situation is going to be different. Some coaches at schools are going to have a lot of openings to fill, and some won't have very many. And so the prospect just needs to, do his or her due diligence and get the information out and just go by what feedback they're getting.
Do you see any decreasing in for your roster? Like, I don't know how many you carry.
Not initially. Not initially. I don't think. I think you'll see. I can speak for myself because I have guys that are going to be taking advantage of the 5th year. I think the next 2 years, my roster is going to be 1 or 2 individuals more than what I would have had if this hadn't have happened. I think over the course of 3, 4, 5 years, you're going to see roster sizes get back to where they are under normal practices. But I think the next couple of years, I think roster sizes are going to be maybe an individual or 2 individuals more than what's happened prior.
So you see more of the down the road, not in the next, short term.
Yeah, that's right. That's just my personal opinion. Now, you talk to 10 other coaches and you might get 10 other answers, but that's just my initial view on it.
Okay. Good. Second, let me mute. Okay. Good. Well, thank you. But so how it's golf in Ohio?
We've been lucky here. We've had golf the entire time. We got back from spring break, which is when our season was canceled, March 12th. And golf courses, private facilities, your country clubs have been open the entire time. Initially, for right at a month, you couldn't ride a cart. Everything was walking only or push cart. But the 18th of April, courses were allowing riding carts on the course, 1 individual per cart. They had to clean the cart with sanitizer and other chemicals before it was used and after it was used, and then spray it down with soap and water between each use. But golf courses have been open the entire time here in Ohio. So people have been extremely fortunate. We've had a pretty good spring. As far as weather is concerned, we've had some cool days and some rainy days, but we've had a lot of dry, warm days as well. So the weather's been really conducive for people to get out and play, get some exercise, get that all important sunshine. And, it's the thing that's going to be impacted the most here in Ohio is, and Coach Butler alluded to it earlier, is, the ability to play in tournaments. You're just not going to see a whole lot of amateur tournaments, whether it's on the men's side or the women's side. You're just not going to get a lot of competition this summer before you get back to school. And that's going to be the biggest impact, not only here in Ohio, but throughout the United States. So, they've already canceled the U.S. Junior for both the boys and the girls, which was the end of July. So based on that, I fear we're only 3 weeks away from, a decision being rendered on the U.S. Amateur for both the men's and women's. So that's going to be the biggest part. And the guys I'm talking to that involved in my program, whatever events they can play in, they're trying to get into, and that might be one or two, but at least they're hoping to play in something before they get back to campus.
Yeah, no doubt. The tournament's canceled, and also the U.S. Open. The qualifiers already finished. They still
Sure.
try to play the main one, but like all of us amateur players, we don't have a chance anymore this year.
That's right. So it's just gonna, based on I've been monitoring what the PGA Tour's been doing. I've been monitoring what other professional leagues are trying to do, and the PGA Tour, I think they came out either the end of March, maybe the first part of April, with some confirmed dates on majors and other PGA Tour events. And, that for myself, that just really lifted my spirits. Because, for about 2 to 3 weeks, there was nothing being done, nothing being decided on. Everybody, everything was just completely shut down. And then, once the PGA Tour started putting out in the media some confirmed dates for makeups with their majors and other tournaments, that was, for me personally, that was a big boost. It was like, okay, now I got something to look forward to. That gives maybe the colleges and universities, something where, okay, the PGA Tour and other leagues are trying to do something, maybe we can too. And so we're all just hoping and rubbing the rosaries that we can get to campus in August and start getting back to some sort of normal.
Yeah, no, that's normal. That's what we all looking for. And
worldwide, this isn't isolated to one specific area. I mean, this is across planet Earth. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. Before I lead it to Lally regarding to she's a COO of G2 Golf Academy, so she has the kids and the player that she worked with for the tournaments. She can elaborate more a little bit of a junior golf tournament here in U.S. of what's going on and what's seems to be happening. I really like to have this webinar to be informative as much as possible. It's all about for you to join us and get all the information that you need. So please bring your question. I just wrote it to the chat that go ahead and type your question in the chat. I will ask our guest speaker, or you can open the mic and have you ask by yourself. But we want to be about you. Anything you want to know, we here only an hour, and we very special occasion today. We have a great speaker with us today. Next, Lally, your mic's on.
I'm here. Thank you.
Okay,
George.
good. Well, thank you for bailing me again for today.
Well, no, you've got already some super strong people on here, so I will just show a little bit on what we do from the junior side with some of the junior golfers. I think everyone that's already spoken has talked about the persistency. That for us has always been really key with what's going on as far as recruitment. And we've always preached to our student athletes that it really has to be them. So we hold them accountable for the process. They're the ones that are reaching out and interacting with the coaches versus, sitting back and waiting. We talk about getting told no. We talk about getting told that, they may not have the scores or they may need to be at this academic level. So I think that that's really important when the juniors and when coaches are working with juniors as far as making sure they understand a little bit about the process, and we try to make it fun. So one of the questions we get asked a lot, and coaches receive quite a few resumes, quite a few swing videos, how can they get them to kind of stick out a little bit? And you can correct me where I'm wrong on the coaching side, but my theory is like short and sweet and concise and to the point. So it's got to be there. It's got to be easy to see either the academics, it's got to be easy for the swing video link, and it's got to be easy to see the results. Obviously, the best thing that I like to see in a student's resume is the upcoming tournaments, because I feel like that really shows and allows the coaches the ability to see where they're going to play and what their planning are. And from the international students, I think it's always great that the coaches see if they are coming over to the U.S. to play. And typically there are some great tournaments. What we're seeing on the tournament side is a lot of individual, like the U.S. junior girls, boys, we talked about being canceled, but most of the tours that operate in the US are starting back up. So in this area, we have the Hurricane Tour. It was back, well, it's not just this area, it's the northeast of the US. They were back up and running last weekend. I see the FCG, which is out in California, San Diego. They run some great events and great tournaments. They're starting back up this weekend too. Haven't heard, I think the AJGA schedule is showing June. PKB, which is an all-girls tour out of North Carolina, the Peggy Kirk Bell Tour, they are right now, we should hear about their event over Memorial Day weekend. So a lot of our one-off tournaments are definitely not happening, but there are some functional junior golf tours that are trying to get the students back out there, trying to take all the precautions that they can, because they want the students to play. They want them to get out there. They want them to continue to build their resume. So I know that some of the travel may be a little bit constrained coming over, but we're looking at kind of mid-July as hopefully people are starting to do, if everything goes well, starting to travel a little more and do some things. So I wanted to show you just a couple examples of resumes, and then we can go back to the coaches on some of those questions. Okay, so let me just see where the resume is. And so we do talk, just briefly, we do talk about preparing and doing the research. There's some really great tools out there to be able to see the stats of schools and scoring averages and academic requirements and majors offered. So when we were looking at that, obviously checking out the roster, looking at the roster size, seeing what spots are available is important. And then resume. So here's some of just a basic template that we use for a resume. And it's really like I said, easy to find, succinct, one page. And then, you can do an introduction to the body of the email. But graduation year, contact information, academic, upcoming, swing video, and some results. Here's a couple of the different examples, and they can kind of make it their own. We don't need to be cookie cutter. One of the girl on the left side of the page, she wanted to tell her story a little bit more before she got into her golf results, versus on the right, it was pretty much straight into the golf results and what she's doing and how she's performing. I don't know, Betty, do you think there's anything else I'm missing there that I need to be adding to this?
No, I think keeping it simple is, like you said, coaches, Sarah and Brian answer too, but when I get all the emails, the quicker I can just glance and see, it was always easier. We have more time right now, the coaches, because we're not out on the road recruiting, we're not in tournaments. So, but, put the facts out there, try not to hide anything. Coaches will find it. So you might as well just put it out there. And I think in your initial letter to when the kids write the coaches, you know, I think it's important to put in why you're writing that university. What does the university offer, or why is that university, why are you selecting this university? And
Yeah.
I think the other thing is to keep, you know, how many scholarships and all that, that's for later discussion. You know, and with scholarships and stuff right now, who knows what's going to happen? You know, will some of the monies be cut? I don't think so, for the most part, but a few universities might be affected. But keep the monies out, the financials out of it right away. I think it's more important, you know, I really have an interest in your university because of this program, where you're located, what you do, size, urban, whatever it may be. Can you tell me a little bit more? That type thing.
Yeah, I do want to mention to personalize it, to really do the research and look at the schools. I think that that's important. We obviously never would suggest a group blast of things. And then social media. Social media is a great tool for a couple different ways. One, I think for the student athlete, the prospective student athlete, they should really, they can showcase themselves. They can kind of build their brand a little bit. And two, they can follow the schools and they can see what's going on in the programs, and it may give them another reason to reach out to the coach. If there's, you know, obviously now there's not a lot going on, but when there is things going on, and, you know, even I've seen a lot of schools posting about, you know, either throwback players or players winning awards and things like that. That always just gives you, the student athlete, reasons to reach out to the coach. I don't know if there's any questions out there that you want us to answer, or you want to throw back, George, to others.
Yeah, not yet. Let me go through those questions in the next session. But thank you for sharing the resume, you know, to the coaches and all the stuff. But you know, as Betty said, gotta be fact straight and face the consequences. Just put everything out there that you think the coach like to see, and make sure don't write wrong name in the wrong college in your email, right?
You won't believe how many times that happens either.
Yeah. What about you, Sarah? Have you received any of those emails?
Oh yeah, it's dear, you know, the previous coach you just sent the email to, it's just an instant delete. You know, if you can't take the time to make that change, that's pretty significant.
Okay, good. All right, so you know, the next will be Stephen. Now we talk about junior golf tournaments and what can happen. So at Larry say, it just started the golf tournament just started to operate it again last week, and hopefully more and more to come. And the big one, as Brian say, in the next few weeks, we will know more about what they're gonna do about U.S. Amateur. But with that junior tournament, and Stephen like to share a few techniques and new technology for all of us. Stephen.
Yeah, thanks, George. Good seeing everybody. Sarah, hello. Haven't seen you in forever. Glad you're doing well. For those that don't know me, I've known George for a number of years, and I've got a golf academy here in DC. I used to coach at a Division III university, but it got to be a little bit overwhelming. The coaches will appreciate how a part-time job is actually a job and a half. So juggling that with my private academy just got to be too much. So I've stopped coaching to focus on my academy and my junior golf development. Not just, of course, I try to help the old juniors as well, like ourselves. But you know, funny, you know, it's interesting. Over about a year ago, one of my students, well, the parents of one of my students came to me and said, "I need your help." And I'm not talking about my golf swing or, you know, Pierce's golf swing or his putting. I cannot navigate this world of junior golf. It's too complex. It's too confusing. My kid's starting to talk about wanting to play in college and all this. And he says, I can't figure it out. And I will say, as a coach, I never really figured it out completely as well. And I actually relied a lot on some of the parents of my students who were very active in figuring this out. And George happened to be one of them. You know, George really took the bull by the horns and tried to, you know, help coaches and players communicate with each other. And so we've got these great forums like we have here. We've got the sports camps in Asia. And so George has done an amazing job. So thank you, George.
Thank you. I should invite you be our guest more often.
Yeah, right. But anyway, the fellow in question is very entrepreneurial, and he has some good people behind him. And I hate to, you know, as I hear these questions in the comments about, you know, social media and reaching out to coaches and you know, sharing tournament scores and you know what I'm coming with to present. I had a couple things planned, but not to monopolize the whole time. Well, I hate to come in as kind of a savior here, but it's interesting how there's you know, timing is kind of fortuitous, and so we've worked over the past year. We've worked on a social media platform that's going to function, you know, essentially like Instagram, but it's going to be very powerful. It's going to be a way for coaches to link directly with students. Obviously, the students link it with coaches, and it's going to be an opportunity for you know, everything to be in one place. We're calling it Player Pursuits. The mobile app, the mobile web app is, you know, functioning. There's a couple of bugs we're still working out. We're doing some beta testing, and the native app will be in the app stores hopefully by the end of the year. But it's going to be an amazing opportunity for students to be able to create a profile. You know, like Riley was saying, I think you'd be able to promote yourself, develop your brand. You know, one of the things that this gentleman was saying is my kids all the time on this Instagram. You know, they're sharing videos and stuff. But you know, Instagram is the wild, wild west as far as the feeds you get. You know, so at the same time, your child is trying to send a video about a great drive he just hit, or a fantastic putt, or a trick shot he just invented. You know, they're getting feeds from, you know, all the different junk that's out there. And so this is going to be 100% golf specific social media. You know, it's going to have some very powerful features. You know, students will be able to upload all their tournament schedules. Coaches won't have to, you know, the coaches that are participating won't have to keep tracking down through 15 different, you know, schedules to figure out where the kids that they like are playing. And the scores will be either populated, results from tournaments will be either populated by the students themselves, or we're using technology to actually pull scores in. You know, the main tours, the Hurricane Tour and AJGA. I've learned all the terms. I have no idea what I'm saying, but I've learned how to say the right words. All the APIs are available so that these websites can communicate with each other. So a lot of it's going to be automated. We just struck an interesting connection / partnership with a stats app that several of the European tour players, the main guy, Tommy Fleetwood, is starting to use. And it's kind of, you know, his coach gave a presentation a couple of weeks ago that says really transformed his game. He's now able to really focus on very key statistics, you know, the strokes gained. And I know there's a lot of apps out there doing it. This one happens to be quite interesting, very easy to navigate. It's like a 3-4 minute data entry at the end of a round. and it's got some unique features to it that some of the others stat programs don't have. So the players' stats, if they're using a program like that, or some of the other ones too, they'll be able to input their stats into their profile. So anyway, very exciting time for us, so I can share the document. I've shared the document, a little two-page flyer with George, and perhaps he can send it out. That will explain a little bit more in detail. But this whole idea of developing the brand and telling the story, telling your story, who you are, is definitely key, no question about it. So anyway, we're hoping this will be another tool in your toolbox you can use. So as far as the junior golf development and all that, to shift topics slightly, I think one of the interesting things as you're watching internet is all these home videos. All of a sudden, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of instructors and players are showing how to use your living room to work on your backswing. So you're getting people are getting very creative with their practice drills at home. How do you work on swing plane, swing underneath the chandelier, you break your chandelier, you're too steep. So all that's kind of become quite interesting. So yeah, I mean, what to do at home. Make use of your time, fitness for the kids, of course, a lot of fitness stuff out there. If you have room to hit, set up a hitting net, hit some balls, work on your technique. There's a lot of drills you can do without hitting. So, communicate with your coach, find some good drills that you can work on. I'm a firm believer, there's a lot you can do at home just working on your mind. A lot of mental exercises, breathing, relaxation, meditation. Nicholas talked about pre-shot routine, going to the movies. Tiger was, he said every shot's a picture, just to highlight the power of visualization when you're playing. And, at home is a great place to visualize, so for any juniors that might listen to this recording afterwards, take this part seriously. These are the elements that you don't see on TV, right? When they're hitting hitting balls on the range and they're hitting the ball, 340 yards with a driver. The pieces you aren't seeing are the intangibles, and those intangibles can be practiced. Back in the day, 30 years ago, you kind of had it or you didn't have it. But now, now we know there are techniques where you can develop these intangibles. So I strongly encourage you to, the juniors listening, I strongly encourage you to not take that lightly. And there's a lot you can do at home. That's the whole key. If you're locked in your house, there's a lot you can do at home. And so yeah, that would kind of be my 2 cents, George, from what I'm seeing with my students and this strange world we're experiencing now. George, your mic is off.
Okay, sorry. Thank you, Stephen, for sharing this information. We have a question for you. The program you're talking about, is that called Up Game?
Yeah, so interesting. Yeah, the stats program that we found through connections with other is a student of a friend of mine. Kind of put this program together. It's called Up Game, and it's very powerful, very powerful. It's got a unique feature that some of the other, if we want to talk in very specific details about this app, it's got a unique feature that some of the other statistic apps don't have, and it's an intended target feature, which I think is quite interesting. other stats systems will tell you if you missed a green, or if you didn't miss a green, or if you hit a shot and you're 30 feet away from the flag. Well, you know what? Maybe you wanted that shot to be 30 feet away from the flag. So maybe you're 30 feet away from the flag, but you actually hit a dead solid perfect shot. And that's important to know. Those are kind of the some of the hidden elements to stats that we don't see. Or if you missed a green, right? Maybe you actually were trying to miss the green. Maybe you were playing short intentionally because it was a front pin and you didn't want to have a downhill putt. So this app has a feature in there, and it's a drag and drop. It's dropping pins around the golf course, and so they've done a great job of. Again, I'll just say what the fancy words they say. They added layers to Google Images, and these layers made their maps smart maps. So if you drop a pin somewhere, their app knows that it's a bunker or that you're short, and so anyway, yeah, it's a very powerful app. Tommy Fleetwood used it all last year, and he's really attributing to a lot of his success to having a better understanding of his own game, really, because of it.
Wow, perfect. Now it seemed like for me, Stephen, it's complicated. We leave it.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I learned
You gotta buy the app, see what happened. All right. So before we get to Q&A, just like to ask our panel again, 5 coaches here. Any last word, anything that you'd like to share? Because the next one I like to ask our partner in different countries to share their experience about COVID and the stage of golf in the particular countries. And we start with Babette. But anything from 5 of you? Sarah, you go first.
Okay. Yeah, George, I just want to say thank you. I mean, thanks for putting this together. All of us, we have time right now. And so I think it's great that we're able to kind of collaborate together and, just kind of give ideas and just, kind of share with each other what's going on. And so, yeah, George, just thanks for letting us be a part of this and putting it together for everybody.
Great. Thank you. But, any comments you'd like to share for the family in Asia? They haven't seen you for 2 years, right? You didn't come last year, did you?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I was there in November. Yes, I was there in November. Been there the last couple of years. Usually the highlight of my year is coming to Thailand every year.
All right. Wonderful. Okay. So, in that case, anything, Betty? Well, we can leave at the end.
I think everybody's kind of covered it. I think for everybody in Asia, reminding us that we're all in this together. I mean, you hear it, but everybody's in the same boat, same limbo, and it's hard because we don't have schedules, we don't have dates that are, exact right now. And for those young kids that, are still trying to dream and want to do things, they just have to, kids are resilient and adaptable, but we have to just keep reminding them to keep plugging along and ask questions and reach out. And hopefully, things will start to come together in the next few months that, I think it will get easier, but it's still challenging. And I think kids in this day and age that have immediate gratification, sometimes it's more difficult. So I think as coaches, as educators, to keep, trying to keep them positive, being grateful, and move forward, and know that, hopefully we'll have better answers in the coming months.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Brian, Coach Brian?
Yeah, I think Coach Butler and Coach Betty said it really well. And one thing I'll just say is was looking forward to coming to camp in June, and unfortunately because of this, not going to be able to do it, but really looking forward to coming back over in November. And I had a great time in November 2018. First time I had a chance to take part in one of the camps, and just had a great time. It was great seeing a new part of the world for me, and you know, golf is a common language we all speak, and it was just great being around a bunch of passionate young people that have an idea and the goal of coming over here to America. So I just had a great time and look forward to being a part of it again.
Well, thank you. And I know Sila, who's on the line here, looking forward to see you in Malaysia again soon. Thanks again. Larry?
Yeah, so I think, you know, for the coaches that are working with junior students, I just think it's important to continue to encourage them. There's a lot of options out there in a lot of schools. Sometimes families, more than students, fall into kind of the name game and it being a known school. And I just think it's important to understand there's lots of different options in different schools out there. And it's really important to just encourage them to find the best school for them, not the best named school, the best school for them. And, you know, I always like to say, make sure your grades are up. That just gives you more options. So as you're working with the juniors, I think it's important that they continue to train, they continue to work on their development, they play tournaments when allowed, and then the grades, you know, the higher those are, the more options there are. And just there's lots of options and lots of ways to research schools. So I think that that's kind of key to making the process fun and less stressful.
Yeah, no, that's definitely for sure. Stephen? Well, we don't have a good weather like where Ellie is in South Carolina.
Oh, no kidding, right?
Yeah, we have been very lucky. We are in the same boat. Our golf courses have stayed open. They're like the busiest they've ever been. But now we have the PGA Tour on the schedule for middle of June. So we'll see how it all pans out.
Yeah, no, we had our spring in February, I think, and now we're back to winter, and so it's quite miserable. But yeah. I mean, it's interesting. The course, if anything, right, for people here in the U.S., I mean, where the courses are open, I mean, the course has never been busier. It's the craziest thing in the world. I mean, in a sense, it's a very good sign. We're seeing a lot of people playing golf that probably played golf in the past, but you know, kind of dropped it, mostly probably because of time. Now all I have is time. So I think that's probably a big thing, which does mean for junior golfers, I think maybe their times are getting squeezed out, whereas a junior golfer might have been able to get out to the golf course at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you know, for a round of golf. They can't do it anymore. You know, all the adults are out there now. So I can kind of see how this the world might get a little tricky for junior golf. You know, one thing I've been suggesting for the kids to do is, you know, you can get a lot of fun and productive practice in, you know, playing 5 holes. You know, you don't have to play 18 holes. You don't have to play 9 holes. You don't always have to play for score. You know, if you can get out for 5 holes, you know, take 3 golf clubs and practice different shots. You know, so make use of the time. There's a lot of fun things you can do. You know, if you're a junior golfer listening, there's a lot you can do out there. You don't have to go out and, you know, play 18 holes for score to get better at this game. So anyway, that might be my last little tidbit. You know, if you're a golfer.
Thank you. And what I understand is golf course is starting to open in Asia too this week. So for the first time after 2 months. Okay, Babette, our dear friends from Philippines, and you know, as Brian said, we were supposed to do a big tournament together.
Yes,
in
we were
June,
supposed to.
you know, but didn't happen. Let's
Yeah.
so Babette, thanks again for joining the call. And could you
Sure.
share your you know, thought of experience of what's going on there now in Philippines?
Well, like what you said, we had a full lockdown. Well, Philippines is made of like three major parts. Luzon is the biggest island up north. Then there's a group of islands in the middle called the Visayas, and then Mindanao in the south. So we've had a community quarantine, which is close to a full lockdown for the entire island of Luzon, which had 80% of the COVID cases in the Philippines. So we've had that since March 14th. And we haven't had anything, everything was shut down. Malls, churches, office, everybody's from work from home. And it was all very sudden. So in the thing in the Philippines that our school schedule is not the same as in the US. Usually 90% of our school ends in March. So our summer schedule is from March to June. So all of our junior golfers lost the summer already. Their summer. It's all lost. So we have there's nothing in sight when we will open and it's funny, you should see our forums on the discussions on the opening of golf courses, and it's sad and hilarious at the same time. Courses in the Philippines all have caddies, and that's a big issue in the Philippines. The presence of caddies will
Hey, Babette. Wow. I think Babette's gone.
increase the risk.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now. You got G2 for a little while. Sorry.
So
G5 now. Okay.
Okay, so they've moved. Well, the good thing is that they moved the school opening to August. Whether it be online or actual school, it's going to be in August. For Luzon, we're supposed to lift the lockdown by May 15, but everybody's expecting that it will be extended until at least end of May to mid-June. So there's still time to prepare. If our juniors still want to go to the US to play, there's still time to prepare. These kids are very resilient. They only need a few rounds of golf and they're back into almost top form. Kids are amazing. They don't need a lot of practice. Just bring them out a few times and they're almost ready. And they'll scale up. They will improve according to the competition. So we don't know. We don't even have flights going to Manila. All our flights are canceled going out and going in. So nobody can even make plans of going to the US or playing regional tournaments. That's out of the window right now. So we still have to wait until we have some semblance of normalcy in Manila. They open courses. They allow flights to go in and out. Then only then can we start planning. This whole thing has taken a hit on a lot of golfers, especially those who are almost graduating, those looking for schools. This summer may be their last chance to be seen in the US, and they've lost that opportunity. Like we said, the US juniors is canceled. US AM may be canceled. Junior World has been canceled. Most of the big main events that our golfers go to, they're all canceled. So, I mean, I feel very sorry for those kids in the Philippines or from the other parts of Asia that are supposedly relying on this last window to be seen and have lost a chance. Well, like what everybody has said, we're all in this together. It's all in the same boat. We can only hope that it will get better. And well, yeah, I mean, it's fun to play golf, but I think safety should be primary for everyone. It will be a while before we go back to normal, before we start traveling. I've been in this junior golf thing for a while. I had kids who played. I was head of our Junior Golf Federation in the Philippines. Now I'm working with George. I have a daughter playing Division 1. So I see the whole spectrum of the issue. I don't even know if my daughter can still go back to the US and study. I don't know. I mean, we haven't had the word on how school will move forward, right? There's no schedule for tournaments. How will that impact on international players who are now in Asia or in Europe who cannot fly back to the US? Those are real issues. But we cross our fingers, pray hard, and hope that everything will turn out okay.
Yeah, no, we pray for you. We hear you. Now,
Yeah.
it's a difficult time, and then I know we walk to walk because we all been through it, and you've been through it the whole time with your daughter, player as a president of junior golf charity in Philippines. So it's tough. It's tough. But glad to see you here, and looking forward to You know,
And we were supposed to have that big tournament in the Philippines. We're supposed to have that big event.
I know.
Right?
We gotta bring Brian
Betty.
back in November.
Yeah, Brian. Yeah, hi, Brian. I spoke to Brian on email, and he was supposed to go. Even Betty, everybody's waiting for you to go back to the Philippines.
Yeah, Bob, it's good to see you.
Yeah, finally.
See you, man.
Yeah. And hopefully actually it was all the preparation we're doing was really moving forward. I was getting sponsors. I mean, people were willing to help. They said this will work. We can pull this off. And then it got canceled. I'm still hoping we can do it next year. I mean that June of next year, maybe by June of next year everything will be a bit normal, and you can all travel back to Asia. We can probably do it then. I would love to have you here.
Yeah.
Can't wait to come back, Bobbit.
Yeah,
All right, Bob. June of 21. Count me in.
yeah. Barry, I have a cold one waiting for you.
I love it, Bobbit.
All the time. Okay, hope to see all of you again.
Yeah. So thanks, Babette, and
Sure.
we will continue to do a good work in Philippines. So Arthur and Jojo, Coach Jojo and Arthur is our dear friends and good partner in Singapore and Thailand. So may I introduce and ask Arthur to speak a little bit about situation in Singapore and Thailand?
Okay.
You can.
Hi, George. Hi, coaches. I actually run the golf academy in Thailand, and we actually tied up with George for I think the last 3 years, sending kids to the US to study and all that, learning the ropes and all that. But okay, back to this COVID thing. I think everybody is saying the right thing. We are in this together, and my take is that if you look at it from the positive side, it actually levels the playing field for a lot of kids out of the US, in the sense that some of these kids may not have the opportunity to go to the US to showcase themselves in junior world because of the quota restrictions and all that. But now the playing field is more or less level. So like what Betty and the rest of the coaches, Sarah has said, do a good resume and contact coaches, okay? They will have more time to go through the emails that they're going to receive. For prospective student athletes, I think since everybody's at home now, parents at home, you should also take a little bit of time to research the universities. Being in this for the last few years, in Asia especially, our education system is very different from the US. In fact, for Singapore, ours is the other way around. We follow the British system. In Thailand, we have got so many systems. We have got a British, we have got the American, we have got a Thai system. So we have to learn how to adapt to fit the American system. So now with this COVID thing, everybody's staying at home. Everybody is working on studying from home. So it is actually a good time that prospective students should take this opportunity and get to know the schools. What I said earlier was very right. A lot of kids, if you ask them where do you want to go, first it's UCLA, Stanford, all the big name schools. But if you actually research and all that, the schools may not be the school that you are actually looking for. And I'm also speaking from the experience as a parent of soon-to-be D1 student, D1 college golf student. She's supposed to go this year, and everything is just on hold. We don't know what's happening, but yeah, it's a what I say is that it's a good. Take it as a positive light now. Don't for those who cannot practice, there are a lot of drills that you can do. One thing I always tell our kids during this 1 month of lockdown is that we can do a lot of mental training. and we can do a lot of fitness training. These are some things which you cannot get back overnight. Your golf swing, you have a good fundamental, 3 weeks and you're back to top form. But if your fitness is not good, it'll take you a long, long time to get back to tip-top condition. Okay. For Thailand, we are a bit luckier in the sense that we just opened all our golf courses. Training has started. Golf courses are very, very crowded now. So tournaments wise, there's still no news. So we are still waiting announcements from Thai Golf Association to see if they're going to resume. As for Singapore, we are still in a lockdown. Our courses are still closed. Everything is closed. We are still working from home. Hopefully by 1st of June, some things will ease up and we can go back to practice.
Oh, thank you for sharing your thought, Arthur, and glad to see you, and congratulations for Haley.
Thank you, George.
Yeah. Well, why as well ask the question, right? Maybe Brian, so Sarah can help with this question. Can students come back in August? International kids will be able to get into US. This,
well, so I don't want to jump in front of Coach Butler, but I have my fall 2020 freshman is from Australia. And so I just spoke with him this morning, and in Australia, things are tracking like by the end of July or certainly by August 1, the ability to go from Australia to other parts of the world are going to be available. And so, and I told him that Xavier University is tracking to have students on campus as I was talking to him today. Now things can change obviously, but today, our administration is trying to have everything in place so students can come back in August. So, as far as Australia is concerned, they can go from state to state inside the country. And so things are loosening up there as they are starting to do here. And so we're very optimistic that come August, he would be able to make it over here. Now, he's in Australia, like I said. Now, other parts of the world, it could be a lot different. Bob had mentioned that Philippines, there's no flights going out, no flights coming in. So it just depends on where you are. But luckily, with he being in Australia, Australia and the United States are both on track to have things opening up for international travel by August.
Thank you. Sarah?
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add. I think Brian did a great job to answer that. It's sort of that waiting, right? That holding pattern. That's kind of what we're in, and hopefully, different dates are June, July, August. Obviously that's close to when campus or universities start classes. So it's just we're in that holding pattern, just waiting.
Yeah. So it's as always, and I'll say I'm full disclosure. I cannot vote for presidential election, but Trump closed down the immigration department. So that's what worried me. So Arthur, we don't know anything until Trump opened up the immigration department again. And right now,
yeah, exactly, because you can't do visa, you can't do anything, and even though I don't know, even if we have flights to go to America, will the borders open? Do the kids need to go through quarantine? And this are all question mark that's on thousands of students that are going in as freshmen this year.
Yeah, wow, I hear you. But then also for me, I'm pretty sure that university here in the U.S., like to welcome international students to come back, because it's a part of the culture and of course the financial part of it. It's important to come back to normal. All right, so we'll introduce Daddy. I'm not sure if your microphone is on, but just want to shout out that Daddy from Indonesia also on the line. If you can open the mics and say a few words, would be great. Yep. No, he couldn't open up. Okay. Well, for the question, let's start with a few. We're gonna have about maybe 5 minutes more, so it's only a few questions that we can take on, and then we will get the answer to you by email. Okay. So, all right. These questions go to Betty first. Betty, do you think it's how important that you can send a swing coach, a swing video or Zoom video that you work out during this time to coaches for recruiting purposes?
I think it's important to include it in. Coaches can look at fundamentals of swings and see where they're at. So I think the more information you can include, we've had kids even videotape them playing a golf hole, so I think I'd like to, as a coach, if I got the resume, see the basic swing. But I also thought it was interesting when I received him playing a golf hole and it being videotaped through his process and things like that. So, as Stephen, said about, and a couple of the other coaches, the mental and the physical, when you watch somebody playing a golf hole, somebody practicing, you're watching, maybe their process, their mental preparation, what's happening, how they react after the shot, little things like that. So I would include it in the resume, yes.
Okay, good. So this question, I know Coach Brian's already, touch on a little bit, but this is a question. If you don't mind, Coach Brian, could you say it again about how this change in NCAA regarding to adding eligibility to the senior affecting your recruiting class for this year, 2020, 21, and 22?
Well, so the NCAA granted waivers to all classes of student athletes, seniors, juniors, sophomores, and freshmen. And so it's just going to depend on each individual situation as to how many males or females are going to take advantage of that fifth year. So in my personal situation, I had one senior this year who's going to get his undergraduate degree this month, and he is deciding between coming back for a fifth year or accepting a job, which he is currently going through the job interview process in. For the subsequent classes of my rising seniors, rising juniors, and rising sophomores, some of them have already indicated in the younger classes that they want to take advantage of their fifth year. So, and then there's now in other situations you're going to find is with the juniors that are going to be rising seniors, some coaches have already been able to fill their fall of 2021 classes. And so the individuals that could have been returning for the fifth year, they're going to have to make a decision. If their scholarship's already been pledged out, then they can either continue on their education for either a double major or a master's or other professional degree and go to that and take on the expense on their own to do that, or they can take advantage of what's called a graduate transfer, and they can have the degree from their current institution and transfer somewhere else and play that fifth year at a different school. And so it's just going to depend on, and I'm hoping I'm saying this to where everyone can follow along, but it's just going to depend on what coach's individual situation is with how many young people are going to take advantage of that 5th year. And then along with that, how that impacts the number of prospects they feel comfortable bringing in the, in the next 2 to 3 classes. I think, as I said earlier, the ones that are most impacted are fall of 21, fall of 22, and fall of 23, because those are the ones where current juniors, sophomores, and freshmen were given the 5th year option. And like I said, some are going to take advantage of it, some won't. And so it just depends on, maybe doing a little bit extra due diligence on the young men and young women that are going to be coming over to America. And they may just have to reach out to more coaches than what they thought they would have before this. But, you just, as you would have anyway, send out a lot of information to a lot of coaches to find out what the best fit for you is, whether that's, Power 5 Division I, mid-major Division I, or other competing levels. But because of the ability for the NCAA granting 5th years, you just may have to reach out to that many more coaches to find out what the best fit is going to be.
Yeah, so it's more like individual. You need to find out from, coaches.
Right. And it's going to be up to the coaches too. Some coaches who are initially going to be recruiting 2021, may not do as much because they have returning people that want to take advantage of the 5th year. It was also mentioned that the lack of tournaments being conducted this summer, you mentioned the Junior World, the U.S. Junior, I would guess the British boys, the British girls, those are in limbo and may not happen. So you may have coaches, not doing a whole lot with 21 because they can't get out and see with their own eyes and make on-course evaluations. The fall of 21 may be severely impacted. But I don't want to say that and scare people off. It's just going to depend on, the individual coach and his or her situation and what they're going to do, as a result of what's happened the last 60 days.
Yeah, so gotta keep on top of it. Things will change quickly with the new information. Yeah. So with that, we're going to take the last question from Mr. Kuma. I guess this one could go to anybody that'd like to have some input. The question is, any advice for people under controlled lockdown with no practice facility and don't have a net to play at home? So Kosar, you want to step one first?
Yeah, I think that's a great and fair question. And Arthur kind of talked about it. He touched on it, just the mental and physical training. I think that's a huge piece. But, there's a lot of different mobility and movement exercises that you're able to do without a golf club. And so, there's a lot of different resources online. Stephen, you can probably talk a lot about this because you have an academy, but I just think there are a lot of different drills that you can do without a golf club. And whether it's, just maybe watching yourself in the mirror if you have the space, kind of just working slowly, working on swings. You don't have to hit the golf ball to get better. And I think that's what's great about the game. And so maybe it's just focusing on, that mental aspect, the physical aspect, just trying to broaden, just outside of golf swing. But I think there are a lot of different drills. I mean, I think about TPI, the Titleist Performance Institute. I mean, they have a lot of different drills on their website that you're able, again, it depends on space, but I think again, mirror work I think is really, really great. Again, I know that might be space limited, but you know, whether it's backswing, downswing, impact, I think there are so many different ways. And again, the TPI website I think is a really great resource.
Great, thank you. Stephen, Sarah, just throw it off to you. Did you have any recommendation, any specific drill?
Yeah, I'm George. You know me well. I'm a firm believer in quiet meditation. Yeah, I was doing something with the kids the other day. I'm seeing them on their phones, and I forget what app they were seeing, and it finally dawned on me. And this is I think pretty factual. The videos that they watch are video clips that last roughly 3 to 9 seconds, and then they switch, right? So all the little videos that they're watching on their Instagrams, and there are video montages that last roughly 9 seconds, right? Well, if your attention span is 9 seconds long, you've got no chance playing golf at an elite level, right? So anything you can do to develop your ability to focus over a suspended period of time is fantastic. I mean, you can do that obviously without a net, all you got to do is just have room for your own body space and you're done. So I'm a very firm believer of that. In addition, like, you know, Sarah and Arthur said, and, you know, all the, you know, Riley, I know you work, well, you know, there are no more secrets out there, right? And, you know, do all the mirror work, there's a lot of drills you can do, get yourself fit. And it's, you know, it's getting to be crystal clear now. The people that put in the work are the ones that are getting it done, you know. I show my kids the opening video clip of Tiger's video series, My Game, and it's, if you haven't done the work, how do you expect it to all fall together, right? That's, to me, that's it. You know, it's one phrase that says it all. So that would be my advice.
Thank you very much. So with that, I just like to thank everybody to be on the call today, and you know, thanks our guest panel, Betty, Stephen, Sarah, Brian, and Larry. Thanks again for your time and share your experience. And want to thank our partner, Babette, Arthur, Dadding, and Siwa to be on the line too. But we're looking forward to see you all again soon, hopefully in Asia.
Yes, most definitely, George.
Yeah, on the deck is November, as usual time. We do this twice a year only. Okay.
Yeah, last year was you missed the party last year, George.
Wow.
Sarah, you were there, right?
Oh yes, that was quite fun. Our karaoke night was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was the best camp we had so far.
Yeah, that was good. That was good.
That's right. We gotta keep doing it again.
George's camps can be quite challenging in some senses.
I don't know, Stephen. It seems like we keep missing a good time over there, Stephen.
Well, yeah.
Okay. All right. So stay tuned. We will have a golf coach panel again. We invite all our coaches, especially D1 coaches, coming back, and we schedule is on June 8th and June 15th. Hopefully, if in the date period deadline hasn't changed. But stay tuned. We will send information out to you. And stay tuned on our next webinar too, this Friday. It's all about Sport Academy, Club Med. So, all right, everybody, and good night and good morning, good afternoon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
See you soon.
Stay safe. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
We will leave the link open for the next 5 minutes. So just anything. Okay. Well, thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
George.